take the 1 o'clock medication?
1 o'clock medication.
Okay. You gonna take the 1 o'clock medication?
My first experience with any kind of institution was when I was 13 years old, and I was placed in a psychiatric hospital. I ran away from home quite a bit, and home was not the best place in the world for me. It was not a feeling of safety because my mother unknowingly was sending me back to the person. I wasn't molested inside the home, but it was a family member who was molesting me. So she would keep sending me over the house, not knowing that she was sending me to a person who was victimizing me. And it was not good. I felt very angry with her. And not to mention that my stepfather he wasn't physically abusive, but he was very emotionally cruel, very mentally cruel to my mom, to my sisters, to myself. And so I started running away from home, and my mother put me in a psychiatric hospital when I was 13 years old. And my mom told me when I asked her, why did you do this to me? Why did you do this to me? Well, I can't put your father in here, so you have to be here.
I come from a family where my mother wouldn't allow me to go outside and interact with other children, but so even the men that were in her life they touched a lot, never penetrated, but I was never allowed to go outside. I think my mother afraid I would tell people. So when I met my husband and I moved away, and when he left me, I was alone. So I started using drugs, alcohol, trying to fill that void because what was I to do now? You know, I married him as a child, really. My mother signed the papers. He paid my mother a certain amount to sign papers for me to marry him. And, you know, and I did. She signed it, she got the money, and I married him, and I got pregnant with my son. And when he left, when we separated, I used drugs. I stayed out there using for many years afterwards, and I was so beat up, so torn up after so many rapes, so many abusive relationships, so many jail sentences, so many of that. I was so tired of not being anything.
I think the hardest part is when I was raped when I was 12 by one of my dad's friends. And to this day, my parents still don't believe me. And it hurts. I don't know whether it's because they're in denial that it happened or they just think that I was promiscuous at 12 years old. I didn't even know about sex at 12. So I blame myself. All those years, I felt my life was taken from me because I allowed men after that to abuse me in any way, whether it was physical, mental, or sexual, because I felt that's how life was supposed to be like. So I allowed it to happen when I was out on the streets. I suffered so much trauma out there on the streets with the rapes, the beatings, stabbings, guns to my head.
I went through some trauma when I was 12 because I got abused and raped.
I just, cried a lot and didn't trust people. I kept it to myself. I didn't want to share with anybody because I thought that it was my fault. I came to the system when I was 16 years old. My father got killed. He got beat with a baseball bat. He got beat with a baseball bat on the corner at a bar. Some guys jumped him and beat him to death. Yeah, so that really traumatized me and took me through a lot. So they diagnosed me as bipolar. But that's all I kept hearing, that I was bipolar and I had a chemical imbalance. Throughout the years, I've just been, in and out institutions. I shut down and there wasn't nobody there to, wasn't nobody there to talk to me or ask me what was going on. It was like on my own.
I was on several different medications for depression. Then they put me on medications for being bipolar. Then they put me on medication for being schizophrenic. And I was on all kind of medications. And the whole time I'm saying I'm not crazy. But when all of this keeps happening to me, I started feeling like, especially when they put me in a state hospital, I felt like I'm crazy. The rest of the world's okay, and I'm the one that's crazy.
They put me on lithium, Paxil, and I think it's Zoloft. I took the medicine figuring that was going to help me get by. I figured I'd sleep myself away and I'd be all right. It may sound crazy, but I stayed on it to get through it. I wasn't really feeling my own feelings and emotions because I was medicated up.
I remember when I woke up, I was strapped. I didn't know where I was. Whatever medication he gave me had me knocked out for 3 days. I was laying in my own urine and my own feces. I still smell that same smell.
They had me on Thorazine, lithium and Ativan at the same time. They told me if I didn't take it that they were extending my isolation period. And I tell the psychiatrist, I'm not taking that anymore. I don't like the way it feels. I was visiting my mother and I had to crawl back, literally crawl. So I started taking it again. Because the isolation was so bad. I started taking it again just to get off isolation.
I didn't want them to take me and put me back in some room, and I didn't want them to take me and put me with Thorazine, and I didn't want it, and it's an instantaneous effect for anybody who's never been injected with Thorazine. When they hit you with that long needle on your hip, you just instantaneously go out, and that's what happened to me a lot.
I remember them laying me on the bed by force. I can recall maybe 6 between doctors and nurses, and they strapped my arms and my legs and around my waist area. I had a hard time with that because when I was raped, I was stripped, tied, gagged, and beat. I had a fear of that happening all over again, even though I was in a hospital under doctor's care.
When I was willing to go, that's what I understand. They charged me, and they was restraining me, and they was hitting me, and they were holding me down. And I remember hearing her through the haze, "She's pregnant, she's pregnant." By that time I was already balled up on the floor, trying to block the blows, and they took me off to seclusion, to the isolation.
And I was very used to people hurting me, physically hurting me, and I was very afraid. I was afraid, and especially when they came to rush me and grab me and pin me down on the floor and put my arm behind my back and then put me in isolation for 3 days and 4 days alone. And once you were in there, they would take your clothes from you and put you in a paper gown. That's a lot for a 13-year-old. That's a lot.
I just think that it traumatizes us even more. So to be bound and strapped and chained the way they treat us, because like I said earlier, we already suffer enough. It makes things a whole lot worse. I felt this claustrophobic feeling that I still have today. I don't know if it's a psychological thing that I still go through of just being in closed doors, not being able to just open the door to go out, having tight clothing on, feeling that same restraint feeling. Still affects me. I get scared. Just unknown, not knowing if I'm gonna be strapped down and medicated again. The feeling of not having any control of your life, that someone else has control of it.
And nobody's hearing what you're saying. Nobody's hearing that you don't like this medication. You don't like what it's doing to you. Nobody's hearing that you feel like what you really need is to talk. What you really need is for someone to understand. I had no place that was home, no place that was safe, no place where adults would listen to you, no place where you could feel protected.
And instead of, somebody taking time out, get me counseling and talking, somebody I can, relate to and talk, be open with. I think it's easier to talk to somebody and relate to somebody that's already been through the trauma and stuff that you experience yourself.
No matter if it's mental health, institutions, the criminal justice system, treatment centers, you're human. Everyone are human beings.
If they would not have gave me all them God bless the medications they gave me, if they just would have done that, I really felt like I was being treated like, well, this is what the book says to do, so this is what I'm going to do, and not try anything different. Because people are so much more than what their diagnosis is. You can't write a textbook on a person and say, okay, this is what you are, and here you go. This is what you mean.
It's not all about medicating us, it's about the trauma that we suffered through. We're tired of being medicated, whether it's street drugs or prescription drugs. We just want a place where we can go and feel safe, someone we can talk to, someone who cares for us. Because deep down, we are just like you. We just handle things a little differently.
When I came in here, I was a wreck. I was an absolute wreck. Very wilted, like lettuce. I was like lettuce. And wounded, very wounded. I felt like a deer in headlights. I think I feel safer now than I've ever felt before in my life because I feel like I'm being heard, like there's support. You don't have to worry about anybody breaking in and harming you or anybody making you feel uncomfortable in your own skin. And people can do that. They can make you feel uncomfortable even in your own skin.
7 months ago, I wanted to die. Today, life is worth living for. Just what I achieved in these 7 months. I don't have material things, but I have love and peace, serenity. There is hope. I have dreams today.
I am a trauma survivor today. I'm not in and out institutions. I'm not on drugs, and I'm not homeless in the streets today. After I finish getting school for my GED, I'm gonna take up construction. I'm be a construction worker. So that's my goal to do right now.
First and foremost, I am a mom. I am an employee. I am a tenant. I am someone who holds a bank account. I am an advocate. I am free from the traumatic experiences that I've experienced. I am free from being controlled. And I am free from the she won't make it. No, I have broke the vicious cycle. Yes. I'm not a victim anymore.